It's like this little dirty little bass line.
I don't fucking care. Can we move on to a new segment, please?
Yeah!
Welcome to Just Two Fans, a sports show about sports,
Obviously.
about life,
Because sports are life.
and about just whatever the hell we feel like talking about. So, let's go.
What is up, everybody?
What's good, y'all? What's good?
I'm Jerry Friedlander. That is Eli Johnson.
That's me.
That is you.
I did it. I'm here.
What's up? It's been a while.
It's been a minute, dude. It's been, just living life, doing my thing. What about you? What you got going on?
Oh, we were in Montana for the 4th, as we
Vegas,
usually
dude?
are. We weren't in Bozeman. We were in Billings, but
Excuse me, where?
Bose Vegas.
Thank you. Okay. I understand what you're talking about.
If my
now.
wife is listening, she is having an aneurysm right now.
That's like now like a 7-year-old joke.
Holy shit, that was 7 years ago.
Pretty close.
I still
yeah.
call it that, and she still gets mad at me.
Good. I'm glad.
But we were there with my wife's entire family. There were, her grandparents' house.
Yeah.
There were 19 of us in there, and 9 of them were kids, all under 10.
That's look. I like kids. I'm good with kids. That's a lot.
It was
of
a lot.
fucking kids.
It was a
That's
lot.
a lot of fucking.
It was a
kids.
lot.
That's too
So
many
we were
kids.
there for 5 days, and then we went to Big Sky for another 5 days with that basically the same crew except her grandparents. And they had like this big house like on the mountain
Nice.
rented for it. It was pretty dope. So that's what I've been up to.
That's a lot cooler than what I've been up to.
Yeah.
Just been hanging out, man. Just like rolling around the city that I live in, just doing my thing, man. I went to the raceway last night. We watched some drag races. I thought about taking out
Cool.
the old RAV4, seeing if I could rip off a 14-second quarter mile. I doubt I
Do you
can
think
do
it could do it 14? Yeah, I was like,
the thing about it is like I got like the higher trim RAV4, and it's fuel. It's not like a hybrid, which I don't know if that helps or hurts it there. But when I put that puppy into sport mode, it can get up. It can get up and move.
got a little kick.
I think I could do 15. I think I could. Although there was a Tesla dragging last night. 9.5. 9.5. It was unbelievable. They're so
insane.
fucking fast.
Yeah, I mean, you get all that torque straight to the wheels with battery and hybrid cars.
Well, and like
Just
the
nuts.
the only thing that beat it through the night. Well, there are two things that beat it through the whole night. There was one drag car that's like specifically for drag, had the fat back tires, had like the straight shifter. That thing cooked. Obviously, it cooked. And then the only other thing to beat the Tesla was a fucking Hayabusa. Like,
What?
Just like this motorcycle that just comes out and just rips.
well, yeah.
The fucking Hayabusa, man. I was like,
Yeah, that makes
I saw it come on the runway. I was like, is that a Busa? Are we looking at a Busa race right now? Let's go. It was pretty sick. Those
That's pretty
things
cool.
cook, man.
Oh yeah, they do.
There's also like just like a random Audi that was running like 12s. Just like randomly.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Like it looked fucking straight off the lot. And it was running, it ran, yeah, it was like 12-2 each race, like on the dot each race. It was pretty impressive.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. Apparently out here they do every like Saturday night from like 5:30 to 10, they do drag racing, and like anybody can just go do it. I'm like, fuck. I was like, dude, I gotta take the RAV4 out there one week. So,
I mean, it would be kind of fun. Just
dude,
see
I think it'd be really fun. Well, so like there was a couple guys there who clearly like it was just two buddies who bought the same shitty Civic, like not even like a good souped up Civic, just like a beat up. Like they went to the
normal,
like they went to the junkyard and just got these two fucking Civics,
really shitty.
Oh my god, they were you could clearly they were just having the best time just racing each other, and it was like their top speeds in this quarter mile was like. I think they got up to 79 one time. Like it was hilarious, dude. And they were just having the best fucking time.
Oh yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's not nothing. You're doing something.
Yeah, man, no, like I've just been like hanging out around the city. I've actually been
Hey, that's cool sometimes.
I've been going around. I've been like touristing my own city for like the last couple of weeks, which has been pretty fun.
Sometimes it's nice to do that.
Yeah. I went to like a really shitty karaoke bar.
Nice.
And by shitty, I mean the greatest karaoke bar of all time.
Well,
they've got a stage,
they kind of go hand in hand.
A smoke machine. They've got excellent fried rice. It's like
you get a laser show.
You do get a laser show. The KJ is like this dude, like this old dude who wears like all black leather and has like really slicked back hair. He'll like come out, like if there's a guitar solo in the song, he'll like take like this little cardboard play guitar and like come out and like pretend to play it in front of people. My God. It's hilarious, dude. That's was so awesome. Fun. It was so fun. But I've been doing just like random shit like that. Like
that's cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a good time.
Nice.
Yeah. A lot of sports happen though, you know.
A lot of sports happen. So let's jump into that because I have Podium up here, but we have like 8 topics to talk about. So let's do that before we get into our Pac-12 preview episode this week, which is featuring Stanford and Cal. Spoiler alert on this, it's going to be a little depressing, but we'll get to that shortly. Let's get to Podium. No particular order if you're new to the show. We cut like the initial intent of this segment was to be like gold, silver, and bronze stories of the week. And then we actually talk what we want to talk about. But it's just kind of turned into these are the side stories that we don't really want full segments on.
Yep. These are the side quests to our main quest of Pac-12 preview.
Yeah, exactly. So the first one, not sure how you feel about the ESPYs these days. I did not watch and I don't really care.
I am very much on the train of I could not give a shit about the ESPYs. Don't care at all.
Yeah, I don't either. And I wasn't going to talk about them until I saw what LeBron said. I don't know what award he was given. I don't know if it was like a lifetime achievement. I don't know what they even fucking do anymore in the ESPYs. But his speech was basically what you would expect out of LeBron these days.
Wait. Was it him thanking himself for himself?
Not quite. It wasn't quite that bad.
It wasn't quite his Instagram post thanking himself for himself.
No, but it's close. So after the Nuggets swept the Lakers.
Yeah.
LeBron somehow figured out how to make that all about him by hinting that he would maybe retire.
Yeah, which we all knew was crap because he's going to play.
We all knew it was crap, but this was
the
only person that this is a self-created storyline. He did it himself, and it's only been him. That's like everybody knew this was bullshit. So in this speech, I'm going to quote this for you, and I just want to see what you think about it. Basically, this is what he said. I don't care how many more points or what I can or cannot do on the floor. The real question is for me, can I play without cheating the game? The day I can't give everything on the floor is the day I'll be done. Lucky for you guys, that day is not today.
Honestly, pretty low key for LeBron James.
It's just self-indulgent bullshit.
Yeah.
He's literally saying that like half the fucking Nuggets team that just swept him out of the playoffs are sitting right in front of him as he says that. Like, dude.
No, but like lucky for them. Yeah, LeBron's not quitting.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess
also I did see there's one thing I saw out of the ESPYs. One thing. and that is LeBron James fucking Dr. Robotnik glasses. Like his Sonic the Hedgehog villain glasses.
Oh, and his coat was all like,
were those?
Dude.
Oh, I also did see a post of him. Of course, it was a Sports Center post, and it was like a picture of like him, Dwayne Wade, like Chris Paul, and a couple other like KD, like a couple big NBA guys, just standing kind of near each other, and it was like, this pick is legendary. And I was like, you guys need to redefine what you think legendary means.
Yeah, no.
It is just a pick of all the guys who play the same goddamn sport.
Standing next to
you
each
can
other.
almost get this exact picture of them playing.
Yeah, if it was like LeBron, Patrick Mahomes, guys from other sports.
And even then, like,
maybe.
It would have to be like they're doing something. Not just standing on a stage.
Yeah.
That's not a legendary pick. People,
well, that's the NBA.
People need
man.
to redefine what they think
the
is
NBA.
legendary.
That's the NBA, and that's what the NBA wants to be.
I know, Jamie.
Yeah, it's nuts. The other stuff I did see from the ESPYs was Pat McAfee was the host, and he was funny as always.
Yeah, that tracks.
So like the stuff that really the only thing I care about is the monologues from the host. Like when Peyton Manning hosted and he just roasted Kevin Durant.
So good. It was so
like
good.
That stuff is good. The awards, I could not care any less about the actual awards or what the athletes even really have to say unless it's something profound and actually makes sense.
Well, I saw I did see DeMar Hamlin gave like a really emotional speech. After
I did see that one too.
The training
so there's good
staff
shit that comes from it. But like I'm not gonna take time out of my day to watch the ESPYs. It's just not.
I just could not care less about winning.
Could not care less.
Who winning? Best dressed athlete. Couldn't care. Could not care less.
No, and that's why we're gonna move on because it's not gonna take up any more of our time.
Sweet.
Next up on podium, Wimbledon.
Oh, just real quick, I want to backtrack a little bit. And I had a Facebook memory come up the other day. This was from 12 years ago. And it said, Eli, it was back when Facebook still had to do you had to do the is, on your Facebook status.
Is, yeah.
And it was Eli is watching Sports Center, or should I say LeBron Center. So I have been complaining about LeBron James' coverage for 12 fucking years.
You've hated the LeBron shit since.
Yeah. Like, here's the thing, I don't hate LeBron James. I hate the fucking coverage around him. It's so annoying and dumb.
Yeah, you've hated that since the playbook days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of old.
Yes,
Shout out to any of you listeners that know even what we're talking about.
If you're an OG, pipe up, man, because we want to be around you.
Here's the thing. LeBron's not as good as he was. That's very evident.
Mm-hmm.
I was always on the train of, on a basketball court, he is amazing to watch. I was floored by his talent and what he could do. I never liked all the media circus, like I'm taking my talents to South Beach, all that crap. Get the fuck out of here, dude.
Yeah.
Go away. A slice of humble pie would go a long way for him. Yeah. Dude has never had a slice of humble pie in his life.
Oh, he's been a basketball prodigy since he was 6.
A junior in high school.
Like, everyone knew he was going to be one of the greatest basketball players of all time since he was 6. And so he's always had everything kind of handed to him, like the praise and all that stuff. Like, obviously he didn't have like a easy upbringing still, but like he knew it was going to end.
Yeah. Anyway, enough about LeBron. It's the off season for the NBA, although spoiler alert, this is not the last time we're talking about the NBA. We'll get back to that in a minute. Wimbledon happened this last weekend. Not the last couple weeks. It's a long ass tournament. Did you watch any of it?
I did watch actually a little bit of it. I watched Medvedev versus Djokovic.
Mm-hmm.
I watched I can't remember. I watched like 3 matches. I have a friend out here who played tennis in college, and she was like, "We're watching at Wimbledon," and so we went. So we watched some Wimbledon, and it was fun.
Did you watch any of the women's stuff?
Yeah, one of the
Did you
matches
watch
was
the
women's.
finals
I did not watch the finals. It
yesterday?
was one of the semifinal matches that we watched.
What would that have been?
I couldn't even tell you.
Ons Jabeur? Is it Ons?
No, what was the other one?
It was Elena Svitolina and Markita Vondrosova.
Yeah, that one. That's the one I watched.
So Markita Vondrosova is the one that actually ended up winning yesterday, and she was like a non-ranked.
Yeah, she was also the one, right, who like came out like in the interview. They're like, what are you gonna do after beating this like being like she's like, I just want a beer. Relatable.
Yeah,
relatable.
It's good shit. Yeah, relatable. Have you caught up on full? It's not Full Swing. What's the
Top
tennis
spin?
one?
Top spin?
No,
that's the video game.
There's too many now. What is it called? Shit.
Underspin.
Tennis Netflix.
Backspin. Spin.
Breakpoint.
Match point. Breakpoint.
Breakpoint.
I have not caught up on Breakpoint.
I guess there are 5 more new episodes.
Ooh, I need to watch those.
Yeah, it's good.
I also haven't watched Full Swing at all.
Bro,
I know, dude.
Get on it. It's good.
I don't watch. So here's the thing. I'm not gonna say that I was pirating Netflix. Legal reasons. I was not using somebody else's Netflix. But Netflix has left my house in the last couple weeks. So
I had to get my own account.
Yeah, and I have not. It's one of those ones that I like. It's the lowest on my list of streaming services that I want because there's like, I don't know, there's a couple good things on it here and there. But now I'll probably get it when Drive to Survive comes back.
Well, the thing is, you have Full Swing, you have Breakpoint, and you have Drive to Survive right there. That's like 30 episodes.
True.
And I'm really into, you're already caught up on this, I think, but I'm really into Peaky Blinders these days.
Oh, dude.
Love that show.
Fucking Peaky Blinders. I fucking love that show, dude. It's so good.
It's like 1920s Irish gangster Sons of Anarchy, but better production value.
It's not 19. It's like right post World War I.
Okay, 1930s. 20s.
20s?
That's what I said.
Yeah, right. 20s, yeah.
What I said.
I did my math wrong. So good.
But that's what it is. It's Sons of Anarchy, but better production value and 1920s Irish gangster instead of biker gang.
And it's Cillian Murphy, dude.
I love
Cillian Murphy's one of the best actors ever. He's so fucking good in everything.
I'm so hyped for Oppenheimer.
Okay. Are you going to double feature?
I don't have the ability to with 3 kids and one of them being 6 months old.
Here's what you need to do.
So no.
Get a sitter. And this is what I'm going to do out here. You get a sitter. You go. I don't need a sitter, so I'm not doing that. Step 1 is for Jamie. The other steps are for everyone else. Get a sitter. Step 2, go see Oppenheimer. Right? The world's going to end. And now I am become death, destroyer of worlds. You walk out of the theater, swerve right into Barbie. And then in the Barbie movie, in your headcanon, is what that is that is a post-nuclear apocalypse society that has grown into the superficial plastic world. And that's the double feature that you have to do if you're going to go see these movies.
That is something. Are you doing that?
I'm going to do it. We're gonna double feature Oppenheimer and Barbie, and that's gonna be my headcanon.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot.
It's gonna be great.
Great for you. Yeah, Wimbledon happened. Back to sports. I don't have much else to say about it. It was good. It's Wimbledon. It's awesome. Good tennis.
I'm a fan of the Australian Open. I don't know why that's always been my favorite.
It's weird because it's just another hard court.
Maybe just the atmosphere around it.
I've always been a French Open fan because I love playing on clay. So watching guys play on clay is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, Cameron's gonna double feature the shit out of those.
You got it. You got it, man.
It's pretty epic that those are probably the two best movies of the summer, and they're coming out on the same day.
I know, dude. I'm so excited.
All right. Next up on the sports list, we've got some Formula One action. There's been like a lot of stuff that's happened.
Yeah, like a surprisingly fast news week for Formula One.
News week, and then like I don't think we even talked about it last episode because Max just wins everything, which is still the case. Max has won all but 2 races this year, and he's on a 6-race win streak.
It's unbelievable.
But this last race, which was British Grand Prix, was much closer than a lot of people anticipated, and it was much closer with a driver that a lot of people didn't anticipate in Lando Norris. That McLaren last weekend looked fast.
It was fast last weekend.
Holy shit, what a turnaround, because at the beginning of the season, they looked absolutely dead in the water.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's like they put those upgrades in, and because like Piastri,
holy shit, that
Piastri
thing was a rocket.
Finished P4.
He should have been P3 if it wasn't for that
fucking Piastri,
for that safety car. Yeah, dude, that thing was a rocket last weekend.
Yeah, that's badass, dude. Maybe one of them will be able to take Verstappen one of these days.
He's not going to win every race from here on out. Something's going to happen. He's going to get in a wreck. I mean, it may take an accident, or it's going to take his engine blowing up or something.
Yeah, let's get George Russell out there and just torpedo the shit out of him. You know,
George Torpedo Russell, just like go ham on him on the first turn.
Let's get Nikita Mazepin on the circuit just for one race, and then like have him like, you know, where Max Verstappen is about to pass him, and whoops, spins out. Boom.
Yep. It would be awesome. So we'll see what happens the rest of the year. It looks like Aston Martin took a bit of a step back, although they said that they knew that Silverstone wasn't going to be their track, so wasn't necessarily surprising. Ferrari's just kind of there, not really doing anything. Yeah. Mercedes is improving, but not quite enough. So we'll see what happens the rest of the season. Yeah. It's in the bag for Max, so it doesn't even matter what he does. He's going to win this, and I believe Red Bull's going to win. Red Bull has a 208-point lead in the constructors. So this is pretty much locked up at this point. The intrigue's going to be that 2 through 5 slot. In the constructors, and then see what, like, all these guys battling for second place is going to be fun too.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really good end of the season here. It's amazing to me the difference between Fernando Alonso and fucking what's his name,
Lance Stroll.
That has got to be the biggest teammate gap on the grid, right?
Well, some may say it's Max and Checo also, but we'll get to that in a second.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Lance Stroll does not belong in an F1 car.
Just doesn't, man.
But do you think his dad's ever going to fire him?
No. There's a whole point
Aston's
of him buying
not on
a
the
team.
grid but Aston's not on the grid in a few years. Cameron, help me out. Who's taking over Aston? I don't know who it is, but the chat's behind, so this is going to be slow. But I think that might be Audi eventually. I think Audi's
are they buying enough to where they would be able to fire him? Because I know Papa Stroll, is he going to?
I mean, it's going to be Audi's team. I don't.
Is it full? Because I know like, a lot of times these takeovers are like, we buy 51% of the team.
It's going to be an Audi car. Not going to be an Aston Martin car. But they're very confident that Aston's going to still be on the grid. So I don't know if Aston Martin's going to buy AlphaTauri. I don't know what the whole thing's just fucking crazy.
Then why doesn't Audi just buy AlphaTauri?
I don't know, man. Not just whole thing's all over the place. Maybe Cameron will make sense of this for us at some point in the chat. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. Lance Stroll doesn't belong anywhere near the grid. Much like
Audi is buying Alfa Romeo.
Romeo, that's why I was getting confused.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of Alphas and Aston and
AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin.
Too many A's.
A lot of A's with double names.
Too many A's. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with the grid and the cars. We do know that Nick DeVries, 9 races into his F1 career, is out.
Yep, 28-year-old Nick DeVries. 28-year-old rookie Nick DeVries.
Maybe 10 races. He might have made it 10. I think it's 10. But yep, he is out at AlphaTauri. Hard to say that I blame AlphaTauri here because he was bad.
Yep, he was pretty bad.
He just did not have the. It doesn't.
AlphaTauri is not a great car, but
Nick DeVries had success at pretty much every level. He won F2. He won Formula E. Like, he's a good driver. He just couldn't figure it out in that car. But replacing him at AlphaTauri is none other than Red Bull's Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, been big news. Big news. I am like, look, I like Danny Rick. I do. I think it's kind of bullshit how this is going down. Just because Red Bull
it's total bullshit.
Red Bull owning 2 teams is bullshit. The fact that there's no contract, nothing. They didn't have to. They just kept him like you can keep drivers in your pocket and just shift them around. Like, that's bullshit.
This would be like the Yankees buying the A's.
Yeah. And then
that's what the equivalent of this would be.
And then shifting people like reserves down
back
to play
and forth.
Yeah. It's bullshit.
Yeah. It's just you take the best players off the A's and put them on the Yankees, and take guys that aren't performing for the Yankees and put them on the A's.
Yep.
You have a farm system team in the major leagues.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's no contract restrictions. There's
bullshit.
That's total bullshit.
I hate it.
But that being said, I am glad that Danny Rick is back on the grid.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that he and Yuki Tsunoda are on a team together, because that content writes itself.
Oh yeah, for sure. Dude, Drive to Survive.
Two funniest guys on the grid.
Drive to Survive just has to be drooling over this.
Yeah. Yeah. I've really grown to love Yuki Tsunoda. He's really becoming one of my favorite drivers because he is the funniest dude alive.
His radio calls are some of my favorite.
Oh my God. So good.
So good. So yeah, that's what's coming up in Formula One. Next up, we have the Hungarian Grand Prix. That is next weekend.
I'm going to predict Max to win.
Who's coming in second? That's what we're doing for the rest of this. Who's coming in second? We have quite a few contenders. You got Checo. Oh, well, before we move on from this,
okay,
Checo's in some hot water at Red Bull because his quali performances have been awful, like terrible. He is in far and away the best car on the grid, and he cannot quali at all. He just cannot figure it out. He does pretty well on race day despite his bad qualifying positions, but he cannot get a quali lap in to save his life.
You know, sometimes it's your racing that gets you wins and not your speed that gets you wins.
But he's not winning.
Oh, dude, Ouch is following. Thanks for the follow. We're still in Formula One. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Sorry, I forgot what I was saying.
Is Checo's spot in trouble? That's the question.
I mean, I think Checo's spot has been in trouble all season, regardless of how he drives.
We called that from day one when Danny Rick signed.
Yeah, I mean this was that's Danny Rick's seat, and they're just they're getting him warmed up in the AlphaTauri. That's what they're doing. They're warming him back.
Sucks for him because that car is terrible.
It's ass. That car is ass. But yeah, I think Checo's losing his seat. He could win out and probably still lose his seat. There's
I don't know about
there.
that.
They just don't like him. You just like don't like him for some reason. So I think he's a good driver, man. I know his quality.
If he bangs out 12 wins in a row, he's not losing his seat.
I know.
I don't care who you are.
I'm being dramatic.
He's
Jamie.
also not doing that. So.
Could you just? Okay.
No. You literally said it.
I know. But yeah,
he's gone.
He's gone.
I mean, he's gone.
It's Danny
100%.
Rick's seat. Is what it is.
Or I could see an AlphaTauri. Although is AlphaTauri gone next? I can't fucking keep up with all of this. I've heard like AlphaTauri is going to be sold, and then I've heard that it's not going to be sold. And if AlphaTauri is on the grid next year, it's going to be a Danny Rick and
Max Verstappen,
Checo swap.
Yep, that's what it's going to be.
Checo will be in the AlphaTauri. And
being a sad man,
or he'll just retire, because that's probably what I would do.
I'd be like, fuck that, dude. Like,
no,
especially like he's had a good season. Like outside of his qualities, he's had a great season.
He's in second in the Drivers' Championship. Now he should be way more in second. Like he should have way more points than he does.
Well, yeah, that happens, but he's not as good of a driver as Verstappen. I think that's pretty clear. But.
That's the problem is he's in the fastest car by a lot.
Yeah.
And he's not coming in second every race. That's the problem. If you're Red Bull, that's an issue.
I guess.
Like if you're looking at
what
Max,
driver are you going to put in there that's going to get second every time? The only one I can think of.
You got to try to find that guy.
I don't know.
Just settle.
It's just like I you just look at the grid and I'm like.
I think Daniel Ricciardo is a better driver than Checo.
Oh, I don't know about that, man. Again, I like Danny Rick, but just like sometimes
Checo's not bad. This is not a slight on Checo, but he's a fairly mid driver. He's just been in the best car the last few years.
I don't know, man. I like Checo.
If you put Lewis, Fernando,
I think if you put Lewis Hamilton in that Red Bull car right now, he probably starts winning.
100%.
Like straight, but I'm not saying Sergio's Lewis, right? But like, I don't know. He's top 10. I guess that's half. You know, he's a top half driver, I think.
Oh, yeah, he's a midfield driver.
Yeah, I guess.
And look, it may be a fool's errand for Red Bull to try to get the two best drivers on the grid. That's pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
But there's like rumors swirling about Charles Leclerc being unhappy with Ferrari, and
wouldn't you
he's
be?
having? Yes, I know.
I fucking would be.
Could you imagine Max and Charles Leclerc on the same fucking team?
Oh my god, it'd be gold.
You might as well it would be gold, but you might as well just stop watching.
Yeah, but then
They would just like fucking take off.
Drive to Survive would be the greatest show on television.
They would all they may wreck each other because those two are stubborn enough.
Yes.
That neither of them is going to give an it. You know what? I'm in.
Let's do it.
Put Charles Leclerc in a Red Bull, and I'll actually root for him because I like him. But
I could also see like if they got Lewis somehow to get away from Mercedes, which he won't.
No way Lewis is ever going to Red Bull.
But like if they were able to do it, that'd be so much fun to watch.
Or just make it stock car racing and everybody's in the same car.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing.
Cameron's gonna light that up. Yo, that hat's fire. Appreciate you. I love this hat. This is one of my favorite hats. My 8-bit Griffey hat.
Yeah, it's a sick hat.
I love it.
Where'd you get it? Shout out the brand, dude.
This is Baseballism.
Baseballism. They got sick gear.
The Portland company.
I know it is. And they got sick.
They have some sick stuff.
There's a free ad today, dude. There's a free ad today.
Baseballism, if you want to send me some more swag, I am 100% down.
If somebody from Baseballism is here.
Your shit is dope. Your shit is dope.
It's not an ad if we're talking about it freely, right?
That's true. It's true. All right, we got to keep going because we still do have a full football preview to do in this episode. But I want to get your thoughts on this. We don't need to spend a ton of time on it, but it appears that the Damian Lillard era is coming to an end in Portland.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
How do you feel about all this?
It's not the ideal situation that I wanted. Obviously, like I'm a big Dame fan. He's created a lot of great memories for me in Portland, and so I'm sad to see him go. And I really wanted them to build around Dame to try to get a championship out while we can. However, that number 3 pick, it was basically the top 3 guys in this draft and then everyone else. And Scoot Henderson, especially falling to 3, you can't really pass that up. Especially considering some people were taking him over Wemby. So it's one of those things where you can't really pass kind of another generational guy in the draft to play. We all know the Blazers draft history when it comes to not picking
very bad
the generational guy and picking for need. Very, very, very bad. So since they couldn't get a deal done, like I'm okay with how everything's going out now. I'm glad that Cronin is like going all in on the rebuild. Right, he's trying to get assets at this point. Like that's been my biggest thing. Is like I was afraid he was either going to pussyfoot around it one way or the other. Right, not build enough around Dame to keep him happy, or like still drafting and then like not embracing the rebuild. Like if as soon as he drafted Scoot Henderson, I'm like, okay, we do need to do this rebuild now. Like you can't half-ass this. You send Dame to where he wants to go. Although he wants to only go to Miami, I guess, and that's probably not going to happen because Miami just doesn't have the assets.
It's going to turn into a 3-way deal.
It's going to turn into a 3-way deal for somebody who wants Tyler Herro because the Blazers do not want Tyler Herro. But it's sad to see him go. But I mean, it's where Portland's direction is going, and I can't fight that. And I think with Scoot and Shaden Sharp, this team's going to be pretty nasty in a few years. So watch out in a couple years, and especially if they can build some new pieces around that, or like get some real good pieces for Dame.
This is exactly what we said at the end of the season when I asked both you and Chris what the Blazers needed to do. Now that they had the 3rd pick and all this stuff, you got to pick one way or the other. This half-assed thing that the Rockies tend to do, which is we're going to have a few.
Pay Chris Bryant $1 million.
Yeah, we're in rebuild mode. We have this young talent that we want to play, but we're also going to go spend a ridiculous amount of money on an aging vet so we get butts in the seats. And then we can't fully commit to the rebuild.
And then that aging vet sucks.
And then you're just perpetually in this nightmare scenario for years, which is where I am. So I'm glad to see the Blazers are doing it. It does suck. I feel somewhat connected to the Blazers from all my years in Oregon, and I love watching Damian Lillard, and the thought of him being on the Heat is just kind of cringeworthy to me.
It's gross.
But I'm glad for him because I just don't see it happening in Portland in the next year or two, and he's not going to get any younger. So he needs to go somewhere where he can win.
Yeah. So, Dude Ouch has asked what the projected wins without Dame in season 1. I think that really depends on what they get back, right? Because if they get like a young talented guy in a 3-way trade, I think that's different than if they get picks. If they get picks, it's like, you're looking at like gunning for 500. Right.
That would be a stretch.
Yeah, like that's ceiling, right? 500. Like that's real ceiling if things go right. But if you can get like a real good young player out of whatever trade it may be, like you can get like Karl Anthony Towns is a very young guy.
Let me run through this.
500's very reasonable.
Let me run through this. This is a CBS Sports article. This is just a proposed trade that they're saying. So this article is basically saying that both teams are going to be all in on this at some point. They need to get a 3rd team involved. So here's what that would look like. The Heat would receive Damian Lillard and Yusuf Nurkic. The Blazers would receive 4 first-round picks, 3 from Miami, 1 from anonymous 3rd team. 3 first-round swaps, all from Miami. Caleb Martin, Nikola Jovic. Wow, that's confusing as fuck. Jaime Jaquez Jr., Hayward Highsmith, Kyle Lowry, and a matching salary X from a third team. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And then the third team would receive Tyler Hero.
Yeah, I think you bring in Kyle Lowry, who's not a young player at this point. He's a good veteran. I don't know if they'd keep him. Honestly, with that, they'd probably do a sign and trade somewhere with him.
1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, you're bringing in 5 players in this, and getting rid of 2. Like, there's no way that all 5 of those guys are staying.
So I think you either sign and dump a couple guys, or you sign and trade Lowry, which I think would be, especially if Cronin is really embracing the rebuild, like signing and dumping or sign and trading Lowry is probably the move there, and just having a bad season, man, and just like really getting that number 1 pick, getting that lottery pick again.
The thing is, if you're upfront and honest about it, and if you go to Blazers fans and say, you guys should come watch this team, it's going to be rough. We're probably going to lose a lot of games, but this team in 3 to 5 years is going to be something to behold.
Yeah.
That shit's fun for true fans to watch.
Here's the thing. Again, like, I think, again, if you're being honest and open about it, then people can go past the win-loss column, and they can look at what's happening on the court, right? And you can see, like, these guys are really young and a lot of fun. Like, Scoot Henderson, I've been watching a little bit of Summer League stuff with him. Fun to watch, man. He is a fun basketball player to watch. Anthony Simons, a fun basketball player to watch. Shaden Sharp, unbelievably fun to watch. The kid is an athletic freak. So, I think it's, if you can just be like, hey, we're rebuilding. Yes, we know it's going to be a rough couple of years, but trust. Give us some trust here. I think you get that grace, and you get the people being like, no, these guys have a lot of upside. But yeah, I think 100%. I think with that trade that you've suggested there, I think, Blazers go for lottery picks with that.
Oh, they have to.
Yeah. Also, like, the thing about like the trading picks though that's hard is, like, NBA first round picks mean way less than, say, a football first round pick, right? Like the NBA, after the first 5 picks in the NBA, like after that is like it's really hit or miss. So that's that's my take.
I mean, it's a good take. Yeah, I don't have anything else other than they just need to embrace the fact that they're in a full rebuild, and it seems like they're doing that. So that's a good thing. Last topic before we get into our Stanford and Cal preview is the American Century Championship. And normally we probably wouldn't talk much about this because this is the celebrity tournament that happens in Edgewood, Tahoe, which was one of my favorite courses that I've ever played in my whole life. And we need to go there and play because it's incredible. But Steph Curry had one hell of a weekend.
Steph Curry is one hell of a golfer, man.
He is one hell of a golfer. I think he's only like the second or third active athlete in another sport that's won this event since it started, which was like in 2011, I think. He had a hole-in-one yesterday. He had 2 eagles today, including an eagle on the 18th, which is a par 5, beautiful hole right along the beach of Tahoe. He eagled 18 to win. Marty Fish had this thing in the bag. He went over into the trees, ended up bogeying the hole for 0 points because this is kind of a weird format. And then Steph had an eagle putt to win, and he drained it from like 20 feet away downhill.
You know what? Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy is right.
Fuck that guy, man.
Like, you're not allowed to be this good at multiple sports. It's not allowed.
Yeah, fuck that, man.
It's one thing to be good at it. Like, you could be one of these guys that's down here, like, who's the next active
MJ's
athlete?
a great golfer.
Yeah.
Like,
but
Steph
he's not
like a
winning
next
tournaments.
Level golfer. Fuck that guy, man.
Fuck him.
And I don't know if I saw like all the videos of him just like draining baskets like over his head, like just like what?
Like on the 17th.
Yeah, like how the fuck is this guy
unfair.
This good at stuff?
It's unfair.
Also,
it's completely unfair.
Davidson. Can we talk
Yeah,
about that?
how
He
did
didn't go
that
to a
happen?
single major school.
How did that happen?
It's wild, man. It's wild. And now he's like one of the best NBA players. Or he's probably the best shooter of all time.
Yep. So I just mentioned that. If you or viewer or whoever I'm talking to at the moment, if you, probably not the listener because we forgot to start recording for our actual podcast, but we'll get to that sec. If you ever get a chance to go play at Edgewood Tahoe, do it. It's one of the most beautiful courses I have ever played. It's incredible.
Yeah, we got to get down there.
100%. All right, that's it for Podium Plus, whatever we want to call that.
Podium Plus. I like it. It's our streaming service, Podium Plus.
Streaming service, yep. Exactly.
All right, we're going to take a quick 5 and actually start recording our podcast portion of this and get that done, but and get some water and something in us. But we'll take a quick 5, and then we'll come back for the Stanford Cal Pac-12 preview.
All right, we're back from our little short break there.
Well, shorty.
But it's time to start talking about college football.
Let's get
because
into
that's
it.
everybody's favorite thing to talk about, and if it's not, you're wrong.
You are just wrong, kiddo.
Today is not going to be a whole lot of fun if you're a Stanford or Cal fan. However,
Well, Cal,
maybe
it
we'll
depends,
see.
It depends
We'll
on
see.
what you're going into in the season.
We'll see.
How you're
We'll see.
feeling.
There's going to be a lot of embracing the suck in some of this, but
embracing the rebuild.
We'll get there. It seems to be a theme in our previews thus far, but let's just see how it goes. We're going to start with Stanford. 2022 campaign was pretty rough for the old Stanford Cardinal and ultimately ended in David Shaw. They said it was mutually parting ways, but he was basically fired. After 12
the game had
seasons
just gone
at
past him a little bit.
Yeah, and both these teams. So I want to come out up front, and Chris has been the one championing this, so I want to give him credit for this take. And then after I give him credit this one time, it is now my take.
Yep, absolutely.
But Stanford and Cal have had a harder time than most, and definitely everybody else in the Pac-12 at recovering from the COVID setbacks. Because the Bay Area restrictions were so tough that they basically couldn't practice or do anything for a full year.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's pretty clear at this point that kind of ruined both of these programs.
I mean, it ruined basically 3 classes, like 3 years of student athletes.
Yeah, totally. Them. And you look at the teams in the South, COVID didn't exist to them, so they just kept practicing no matter what.
And even other teams in the Pac-12 didn't have nearly as strict of stuff to deal with as these two teams. So I want to preface this with, I understand this isn't necessarily all their fault. However, I think you are correct in saying that the game had passed David Shaw. And
the thing about Stanford as a program had already started going downhill before 2020.
Here's the thing. Yeah, so basically for the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of David Shaw's tenure at Stanford, things were great. 11-2, 12-2, 11-3, 8-5 was kind of down, but then right back to 12-2, 10-3, 9-5, 9-4, 4-8 in 2019, and that was pre-COVID. So the writing had started to be on the wall that it was starting to catch up. And now, especially at Stanford and Cal, kind of, but with the transfer portal being what it is for everyone else, and then the academic standards that Stanford has, it's just going to be a tough hill to climb.
It really is. Yeah, I mean, it's an uphill battle for especially Stanford.
Yep. Private. Now, the thing is, they're private, so they don't have to tell us what they're anything, but it's going to be a tough hill to climb for them. But let's get into a recap of 2022. They finished 11th in the Pac-12, 3-9 overall record, 1-8 in conference. It just wasn't good at all. They
had all of that 1-8, 3-9. They hit all of it.
Yeah, and one of them, one of their 3 wins was against Notre Dame, which was kind of fluky.
Oh, totally. Well,
Notre Dame
is
wasn't
the most
bad, but
quintessential Stanford thing in the world.
It's also the most quintessential Notre Dame thing in the world.
It's just it was a lining up of the stars. But Stanford always has that one game, and it's usually against Oregon, where they play up to the competition and for out of nowhere have an amazing game.
Yep.
Or, down the stretch get every call in the world that wasn't deserved or whatever. I'm still not.
We're not bitter.
We're not bitter about that fucking game at all. I'm not bitter about that game at all, Jamie. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they beat Notre Dame 16-14. It was just kind of, and then their only Pac-12 win was the following week. They beat Arizona State 15-14. It was just like, that's pretty much how this year went for Stanford.
And definitely. So, Dude Ouch says there was a significant lack of fan engagement.
That is putting it about as lightly as you could.
Well, I don't know who Dude Ouch is, but if you're new to the show, welcome. Number one, love to have you here. Second is we always joke about Stanford not having a home field advantage. So that has been on the show for a while.
Yeah, they and it was even more evident. Like fans, even opposing fans didn't like. The farm would look somewhat full at least most of the time because visiting fans would be there. This year they were so bad that visiting fans didn't even want to go, and yeah, that stadium was empty.
But
for a reason. Yeah. They were terrible. Like let's just get into it here. I mean, I usually we do their best win, worst loss. All of the losses were bad. A few of the wins were okay and mostly fluky. So there's just not a whole lot to highlight here. This is going to be pretty depressing. But let's go into their offensive statistics from last year. They were 11th in the Pac-12 in scoring. That's only because Colorado existed. They were 10th in total yards per game, 7th in passing yards per game.
Oh, what's up, Squish?
What's up, Squish? 10th in rush yards per game, 9th in third down percentage, 7th in red zone touchdown percentage. They were just bad. They weren't in the top half in any statistical category in the Pac-12.
That's pretty bad.
Tanner McKee was okay. Like, he wasn't the reason they lost these games. He was actually a halfway decent quarterback.
Tanner McKee, I think, and I've always kind of thought about Tanner McKee, he's a good above average. Like, he would have been
I think he is
a top 3 quarterback in the Pac-12 if he had any semblance of an offensive line.
Top 3 is tough because you have Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and
the
Michael
one
Penix.
who shall not be named.
Yeah.
But he'd be up there. He'd be in that conversation if he had any semblance of an offensive line. The kid would
certainly be in the top half of the conference.
He was looking at the clouds all season.
Oh man, that offensive line. And here's the thing: like Stanford has built its life basically since Jim Harbaugh was the coach in 2006 through 2008 or whatever.
Even before that.
They built their entire program on being more physical than you. That's what the entire the front 7 on both ends, like the offensive line and defensive line, were just going to wear you down all game. That was the entire.
They're going to win 17-14.
Yeah, which they did,
and it's going to be
in a few games.
Miserable.
But that's how they made their bread. That's what they did, and. This year, that offensive line was Swiss fucking cheese.
Oof. That is one of the worst Power 5 offensive lines I've seen.
And for Stanford to have that is
disappointing.
Yikes. So that's what happened there. They had the second fewest passing touchdowns by a QB room in the conference. It was bad. Nothing was good offensively for Stanford. It just was really bad. And then you flip to the defensive side of the ball, and it was worse.
They were so bad.
They were 10th in points per game, 10th in total yards allowed. They were first in passing yards allowed, but that's because teams didn't have to pass against them because they were whooping that ass.
It was pretty bad. It was pretty pathetic to watch.
11th in rushing yards allowed. They were 10th in interceptions, 11th in fumbles. They couldn't even get takeaways. They were 6th in sacks. It just was not good.
It's like one of those things. I don't know if you've heard the phrase, but it's like you weren't the worst defense out there, but you better hope that other defense doesn't improve. You know, they were bad,
real bad. So it's like, in the past, Stanford's defense has been super tough, and they could bail out a bad offense, and in many years they did a lot. Not the case anymore. So with all of that said, with the dumpster fire that was the Stanford Cardinal last year, David Shaw is out. Ends his tenure with a 96-54 overall record. He was 65-40 in conference, which for Stanford is very good. He had a very good tenure, especially the first half of his tenure was phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was just time to move on.
Yep. I think, again, it's kind of the game had gone to the rear view mirror for him.
Yep.
And it was time for him to move on. And then they picked up, what's his face? Troy something.
Troy Taylor takes the helm from Sac State.
Who he did a great job at Sac State.
Great job at Sac State. He had 3 seasons there. 2020, they didn't field a team. They didn't have a season. But 2019, 2021, and 2022, they won the Big Sky Conference each of those 3 years. In this last year, they made it to the quarterfinals of the FCS championship bracket. Like, he did a great job at Sac State.
Yeah.
Here's the interesting piece of this puzzle. Troy Taylor runs not only a fast-paced offense, a very fast-paced offense. And that is not like even so this is where it's going to get really, really weird for Stanford. Because the team that they're going to field this year is not built for that, even in the slightest.
I mean, let's be real. It's not really built for
It's not built. It's not right. That's, I guess, if there's a saving grace, it's that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like we've talked about, Stanford has been built on running it down your throat and then using tight ends as wide receivers and just throwing it up in the air. That's what they've been built on. That is not going to work in an up-tempo, fast-paced offense.
Not at all.
You need quick guys. You need quick offensive linemen. It's going to be very interesting to see, especially this year, how he adapts to this with his roster, because it's very square peg, round hole, and
totally.
It could end very poorly. But I also think Troy Taylor's a good coach.
I mean, he could flex his OC muscles and just say, this team can't do what I want it to do, so I'm going to do what it needs me to do.
Yeah, it could be a lot of like Whittingham, or not Whittingham. Arizona State head coach now, Oregon offensive coordinator.
Dillingham.
God, I don't know.
That's why you got confused.
Yeah.
Well, Whittingham.
Yeah. So it's like what Dillingham did this year. Like we saw it with Bo Nix had an injury. We don't have a mobile quarterback. We're still beating Utah. Like he could do a game plan like that around it. We'll
or
see.
On the fly in that case.
We'll see what happens.
Crazy. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. There's going to be a lot of wait and see aspects to this review, but largely this team's in trouble, and we'll show you why. Along with Troy Taylor comes a new DC, obviously a whole new coaching staff, but Troy Taylor's running the offense, so there's really not an OC. He's the man doing the offense thing.
Weird thing that I've never seen before. He hired co-offensive line coaches.
I mean, that O-line was really bad. So
here's the thing. They got 2 guys, both from FCS programs, who have never worked together. So I'm going to be very interested
keeping an eye on that.
Because this could go very poorly. Like, very poorly.
Or it could go well. You never know.
It's
not going to go.
Maybe it's a genius move.
Year. It's not going well this year.
Spoilers.
But this is a multi-year thing. New DC coming in from Wisconsin is Bobby April. He's bounced around programs since 2004, mostly assistant roles. He's never really been a coordinator. I think he was in charge of a special teams unit somewhere at some point, but nothing to write home about. That being said, he's a fairly highly regarded coach. And his offensive style, obviously, or his defensive style, obviously coming from Wisconsin, should fit with what Stanford's defensive identity has been. So I don't see a whole lot changing on the defensive side of the ball.
Except, I mean,
other than maybe, hopefully it's better than what it was.
Okay.
If you're Stanford. Key returning and departing players. There's not a lot returning because there's not a lot to be excited about returning because the team was bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the guys they are returning, E.J. Smith is going to be back at running back. That's Emmitt Smith's son. He was definitely a highlight in the 2 or 3 games that he played last year.
Yeah, his thing is going to be fighting off the injuries, but he is going to be the identity of this team if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, and the other thing is this is a more up-tempo, high-pace offense that's not going to be quite as ground and pound as
Yeah.
the David Shaw offense was. So hopefully it should be a little easier on him physicality wise.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, he's still a running back. So if you're already having injuries in college, you're in a little bit of trouble in that position. But when he's given room to operate, like if they do a true spread type offense, if he's given some room, he is a weapon.
He'll be
I mean, he was
dangerous.
averaging 6.9 yards per carry. Granted, that was against Colgate basically to start the season.
And with
so
a horrible offensive line.
yeah, but it was Colgate. I mean,
yeah, but it's a horrible offensive line.
it was a bad O line, but Colgate's defensive line was probably worse. So you got to take it with a grain of salt a little bit, but he did show signs of being great, and I think he could be. The other returning piece on offense that's the only one that I found to be of any worth is Benjamin Urosic. He's the tight end. Obviously, in Stanford's previous system, the tight end was heavily utilized. Mm-hmm. So this is not a surprise. He did average 9.1 yards per catch. He did only get one touchdown, but I don't know that I blame him.
This is like the perfect example of square peg round hole, right? Because at Sac State, they didn't run with tight ends at all. And
yeah,
so
that's
where are they going to flex them out into?
Probably.
Yeah, they're going to flex them out into that Z receiver, that slot, and see, or not Z receiver. Sorry.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, the Chiefs have made that work very well with Travis Kelce.
Oh yeah, slotting him out into the slot receiver. Yeah.
And with a mobile quarterback. So if you have a good OC or a good head coach that's running the offense, you can take advantage of talent no matter where they are.
Yeah. So Squish says, if Stanford could never have a dominant tight end again, that would be great. As an Oregon fan, I feel that. I feel that deeply in my heart and soul.
I just hope that's not like transferred to a dominant speed guy at wide receiver. Like, what the fuck? It's going to be weird watching Stanford run up tempo.
It's going to be very weird. It's also going to be very weird to see them like maybe run with wide receivers who are under 6'5".
That was so frustrating.
It's so frustrating, dude.
It had to be great to be a Stanford quarterback. All you had to do was huck the ball in the air.
You had to get it close.
And high, not low. You had to get it close and up.
It's unbelievable, dude.
Crazy. The rest of the team wasn't very good, so nothing to write home about on the returning players. If anything, they're a hindrance, but this team's going to be very devoid of talent. So that's where we're at. On defense, the only one I could find returning that's of any worth is defensive end David Bailey. He had the most tackles for loss on the team as a freshman, and he was relatively undersized last year. And by all accounts, he's gained size in the offseason and should be better. So definitely, and there is some more talent on the D-line and linebacking core that was young. So we'll see what happens. They just didn't get a lot of playing time.
They hadn't gotten an interior defensive lineman in recruiting for 4 years.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy that. This whole team is they're at what's the scholarship limit? 85. I think they're at 73 right now or something like that. It's not going to be.
It's the opposite of Oregon's problem.
It's going to be very difficult for Stanford this year.
Yeah.
Key leaving players: Tanner McKee and their top three receivers. Other than that, I mean, they're losing their O-line, but their O-line was terrible.
So you have on here, you have 4 or 5 starting offensive line. It goes deeper than that. They lost 6 of 7 of their starting rotation. The starting line and rotational players.
They're rotational players.
Just unbelievable.
It's bad. It's really bad.
A bad offensive line lost 6 of its players.
6 of its 7 contributors. Yeah. That's really bad. I don't know really what else to say about that. And it's going to be really bad. On the defensive side of the ball, they lost pretty much their 2 top producers in the back the secondary, you got Jonathan McGill. He transferred to SMU. They lost somebody else that I don't have on here in the secondary. And then they also lost their best linebacker, Levani DeMooney, with an interconference transfer to Utah. So not only did he transfer, but a slap in the face, he's going to Utah.
I mean, that's a good transfer for him. Go to a team that's good on defense.
Great transfer for him. But they lost on a defense that wasn't good. They lost their only production, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll move into the things how they're trying to fill these slots. We'll start with their recruiting classes. They were 62nd overall in the country, 11th in the Pac-12. Not a great start there. However, the good news for this team and these freshmen incoming is a lot of them are going to contribute this year and get playing time because this roster is so bad that they immediately become starting players. So we'll start off with the offensive line. They did get two guys. One who I really like is, I don't want to butcher this, is Simeone Pale. He's a guard, 6'4", 320 pounds. And if you want a huge run lane, look no further than this kid. His highlight reel was so much fucking fun to watch. He's got such good leverage. He's so low out of his stance. I mean, it's he just absolutely crushes kids. And obviously these are high schoolers who are a lot smaller than him, but so his high school ran a wing T, which is it's gonna be interesting in the fact that you don't see him pass block, and so it's gonna be very interesting to see what he could do pass block. This is the kind of lineman that Stanford would have been salivating over in the Jim Harbaugh era. But just if you want to see really fun offensive line play, go watch this kid's huddle tapes. It is he's just absolutely crushing these kids, and he's so fast and so aggressive for his size. It's so much fun to watch. You got to watch it.
Awesome.
He's going to be an immediate contributor on this team. Well, I guess I would say that, but it depends on what this offense is going to look like. Because if they go anything if they're going to go run heavy at all, get this kid on the lineup. He's going to be an automatic upgrade to whatever you have. But yeah, if I see him either being an upgrade this year if they're run heavy, but if they start going pass heavy, I could see this kid transferring to one of Georgia Tech, and just absolutely running over kids. I could see he's going to be a contributor somewhere for 4 years, and I kind of want to follow him because his tape, I was hyped, dude. As an offensive lineman, dude, I was like, yeah, get him. It's fun tape to watch.
That's awesome.
We go over to another offensive lineman, another tackle. Well, this guy's a tackle, not Pale is a guard. Luke Baklenko. He's 6'6", 300 pounds. And he's just kind of the prototype of a typical David Shaw lineman, a big bruiser. He'll open up the running lanes, not quite as bruiser as Pale, but he's needs a lot of help. He's very raw with his footwork and his pad level. But since the offensive line is atrocious already and they lost so many starters, I could see him gunning for a starting role or a rotational role. I think you'll see him on the field. I don't think he's going to be anything necessarily special. Kind of going to more of the skill positions. One guy who I'm really interested about is Miles Jackson. He's a quarterback. And I can't remember he's out of California somewhere.
Long Beach.
Yeah, Long Beach, California. Watching his tape, he's a very interesting prospect. He's very good at decision making, and he does a really good job of looking off safeties. A very Stanford-esque quarterback, right? Very smart, very cerebral. He does have the ability to run, and he can throw on the run pretty accurately. He does lack in size, and like when he's in the pocket, his accuracy is pretty weird. Like he's very high over the middle, which I don't like. And his throwing mechanic is like all arm. It's so weird to watch. Like he like does not activate his lower body at all. It's so weird. But again, like this roster's pretty bad. Like I think if he was on another team in the Pac-12, he'd be pretty solidly their backup, and would be kind of, maybe towards the end of the season they'd be like, ooh, this guy might be our starter next year. He's got a lot of work, but he's got a lot of talent. So I could see. I don't think he'll contribute necessarily this year. Well, he might, because Patu is Patu. And then in the wide receiver room, this is where I kind of like I'm interested, because these are two non-Stanford prototypical guys, right? You got Tiger Bachmeier, who's probably going to be a starter this year somewhere. He's a really solid possession receiver. He's like pretty deceptively fast. He doesn't look fast, but he's outrunning people. And he's a great route runner. He does lack some size. He's only 6'1", right? And, I think the average corner in the Pac-12 right now is about 6 feet. So he doesn't have a whole lot of size advantage there. But like, I think if you could put him in a slot in an up-tempo offense, kid could cook. He can cook. And then you got more of a typical Stanford guy, Amari Borden, who's 6'3", 180 pounds. I think he's going to be a good red zone threat. I don't see him on the field all that much, except for maybe in like kind of niche scenarios. His route running is pretty meh, but he's tall, has good leaping ability. He's a basketball player, so he can get up for the ball, and he does do a really good job of high pointing. Which is, so I think he'll be like one of those guys, like we were talking about, the Stanford tight end guy who you're just like, fuck, cover him in the red zone. Are you kidding me? Like he'll be a problem in the red zone if they use him right, but you probably won't see him a whole lot. So that's on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, there's a lot of guys returning who weren't starters last year who are probably going to maintain the role. They didn't do a great job recruiting on the defensive side of the ball, so there's really only one guy who might compete for a starting job this year, and it's Jashawn Frausto Ramos. I didn't write down his position. Safety, right? Are you looking at it?
I'm pulling it up.
Oh, he's a cornerback.
He's a corner.
He's a cornerback.
Corner, yeah.
I was watching his tape, and like he is ultra raw. He has got all the athleticism you could really want here, but he is so raw. He could start again. The roster's so bad he could start this year. He could end up He could end up getting a starting role, being as raw as he is. And if you are another Pac-12 fan with a good quarterback, be excited if he does start, because he is going to get burned a lot. However, I think if he's developed properly and like really like they invest in him, he could become a top cornerback in the Pac-12. He's got the skills. He's just really raw. Like the footwork's raw, his coverage is raw. Like he's a young kid. So that's and then on transfers, on the offensive side of the ball, they really only got a couple offensive linemen who are like from Princeton and Harvard. They should both get considerable amounts of playing time this year. I mean, they're experienced guys coming into a bad offensive line. Alec Bank should be the starter at his position, and he's got a lot of experience. But it'll be interesting to see how much he can step up from playing at Harvard in the Ivy League. Because that competition is much lower than the Pac-12. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think there's been a whole lot of improvement on the offensive line here. I think depending on what they want to do, but I don't know. There's not a whole lot of improvement that I see.
Yeah, the rough part with the transfers is their transfer class. They only have 4 transfers on a team that was absolutely decimated by the transfer portal, and they're ranked 76th overall. Big yikes. That means you're getting passed by a group of 5 schools. Yep. And you're dead last in the Pac-12 in transfer recruits. It's just not good. Um, of those guys that you mentioned, I'm looking at the Our Lads projected roster. Does say that Gathan Bernadelle, he's a linebacker transfer from Florida International, is going to be the starting will linebacker. So yikes for the linebacking core because he's not that good. But he's projected as a starter. Does have Alec Bank as the starting left tackle. So you called that one well. It has Trevor Mayberry, the other offensive line transfer, as the backup left guard. And then it has Simeone Palais as his backup. So he's third on the depth chart now,
that
but
won't last long.
and there's no second right guard. Like there's no backup right guard listed, so he'll probably be a rotational guard on both sides of the ball.
Squish just pointed out that our first 4 games are Hawaii, USC, Arizona, and Oregon.
Yikes. We'll get to that prediction here in a second. Your Tiger Bachmeier wide receiver, he is listed as the backup X receiver. And then Miles Jackson, the quarterback, is currently listed third on the depth chart. But I think all of those guys, if this team's as bad as we think they're going to be, you're going to be digging deep in the depth chart in a lot of games anyway. So you probably will see all of these guys play.
Oh, yeah, they are playing Sac State, aren't they? That's awesome. They play Sac State in the 3rd game.
That is pretty hilarious. So yeah, you're pretty much spot on with the transfer guys. This team's going to struggle with the transfer portal, and this is a team that needs the transfer portal. So they're kind of stuck. They really need to hit on their high school recruits, and they need to keep them. And it's just going to be tough for Stanford moving forward. That said, 2023 preview, as you can probably guess, it's going to be really bad football.
It's going to be really rough to watch. Even if like Ari Patu has like a good season, he's going to be running the whole time.
Yeah, Ari Patu, since we haven't mentioned him yet, was the backup quarterback last year. He got a decent amount of playing time,
and it was
last year, and he's okay.
He's not as good as Tanner McKee.
He's not, and maybe the new offense will fit him better, and he'll adapt. And if you're Stanford, you really need to hope that he just picks up this new system quickly and gels with this new receiving core, and things just go off without a hitch, and his offensive coordinator is able to cover up some holes talent-wise with good play calling, and that's pretty much the best you're hoping for if you're Stanford right now, is you just press all the right buttons and things kind of fall into place. Other than that, like, the depth on this team is terrible.
Yeah. That's
awful.
That's going to be,
if they have any injuries, they are toast.
Yeah. This is going to be a rough season for Stanford. I think they're going to be pretty well coached this year, so they might be able to surprise a team or two, but they just do not have the talent on this roster to truly compete day in, day
I mean, like, can Stanford beat Hawaii?
Probably.
Can they beat Sac State? Maybe. Well, Sac State has a new head coach.
Depend on what their new head coach does.
Yeah. Do I think Stanford's going to win any other game on this schedule? No, I do not.
Ooh.
Not a single one. I'm not going to pick them in any other game.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
Could they surprise somebody like Arizona? Or Arizona, not playing Arizona State, so that sucks for them. Washington State, could they surprise another bottom third of the pack type team? Maybe. But on paper right now, of the teams that we have previewed, this is the worst one. And it's by a lot.
Yeah, I mean, ASU is pretty close. But not quite.
Not quite, because I think they had a better recruiting class. Like, those two teams are probably going to be fighting for the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, just so you know, Washington State. Sac State hired Andy Thompson, who was the defensive coordinator and linebackers coach since January of 2019. So we could assume that Sac State is going to be around the same skill level as they were last year. I think they could beat Stanford.
All right, I'm going 1-11. This team's going to be really bad. Like I know we're not going through the schedule. I don't see a win anywhere else.
I'm gonna go 2-10, just because I think there's gonna be one game like Stanford does, the one game where they for some reason
like I
pull
could
it out of the
like
bag.
they're at home against UCLA, and UCLA's always struggled against Stanford, like Oregon has.
Yeah,
and UCLA's also in rebuild mode, as you know if you listened to us a couple weeks ago. So, surprising somebody like that. The rest of this, I don't see it.
Yep.
I don't. So that's Stanford. The good thing is, if you're a Stanford fan, you know what this is. You should know what this is going to look like. And if you don't, you just haven't been paying attention, which is fine. But you're going to figure it out very early on that this team just has a major talent deficit that can't be overcome.
Agreed.
That's Stanford. Let's move on to Cal. I'm going to be fully honest. Going into these previews, I was almost certain that Cal was going to be what I think Stanford's going to be.
I wasn't quite.
I thought Cal was going to be the worst team in the conference. Before I start, that was just based on last season and what I saw in person with them and what I thought going into this season based on the recruiting that I had seen, which was very little, which is why we researched this stuff, because my assumptions would have been wrong, I think, after doing some research. So let's go into Cal. Recap of 2022, finished 9th in the Pac-12, 4-8 overall, 2-7 in conference. Best win was against Arizona. Worst loss was Colorado. How Colorado won that football game is totally beyond me, but they did lose to Colorado, and that was probably the worst loss by any Power 5 team last year.
Agreed.
So that was that. If you're going into the statistics, this is going to sound very familiar to what we did last round with Stanford. Offense, 10th in scoring, 9th in total yards per game, 5th in passing yards per game, 12th in rushing yards per game, 11th in third down percentage, 10th in red zone touchdown percentage. It wasn't good.
Not good.
It was really bad.
Another team that was decimated by COVID and regulations. So I'm just going to put that out there again.
There's just a tiny little, if you're a Cal fan, something to hold on to, but it was bad. And miserably bad in a lot of cases. Jack Plummer was okay at times at quarterback. Bottom third quarterback in the league. He didn't have.
Yeah, he wasn't it. Not it.
He wasn't it. Flip to the defensive side of the ball. The statistics look slightly better, so this is where it differs from Stanford a little bit.
They were actually a pretty decent defense. Kind of overall.
They were okay.
They excelled at what they wanted to do, which was they wanted to limit explosive plays, and they did very good at that. They were awful at everything under that.
Yeah. I mean, they were 6th in points per game allowed, 9th in total yards allowed, 12th in passing yards allowed. They gave up a lot of passing yards. Worst in the conference. 7th in rushing yards allowed, 6th in interceptions, 5th in fumble recoveries, 8th in. So kind of middle of the conference.
I saw a stat today when I was doing my research on this that was their defense, when it was second and mid or shorter, the team would get on second down and middle yardage or shorter. They gave the team on offense got a first down like 85% of the time.
That's unacceptable.
Unbelievable. That's including like dropped passes and like overthrows and shit. Like it was. I'm just like, I saw that. I was like, are you kidding me?
That's bad. That is real bad. So, and it's really inexcusable for a Justin Wilcox team who's very defensive-minded head coach, obviously, played defense. Pretty inexcusable for a defense to be that bad. Like, if Cal should be good at anything, it's defense.
You would think.
And they were better than their offense, but that is saying basically nothing.
Yes.
Cal did retain Justin Wilcox for another season, so he's returning for his 7th season there. But after that, there are some major changes, specifically on the offensive side of the coaching staff. Jake Spasadol, I don't know how to say his name. He's taking over the offense. Very up-tempo offense. And I mean, like, if we were talking about up-tempo for Stanford, this is like mega up-tempo. Is what he was doing.
Spavital. It's a V.
Spavital. That was a typo on my part.
I was like, that doesn't sound right.
Spavital. I'm forgetting where he came from. Was it Montana State?
He came from Texas State.
Texas State. Yeah, it was one of those FCS teams that just like took what Chip Kelly did and then put it on steroids and just went as fast as they possibly could. And that's how they beat you.
He kind of ran it into the ground. But continue.
Yeah. Numerous other changes on the offensive coaching staff as well. Basically, the entire offensive staff got overhauled. So we'll see what happens here. It's going to be very interesting moving forward. In terms of the personnel, they took a much different approach than Cal has in the past, but this is how a lot of teams are going. They are focusing heavily on the transfer portal, and I mean heavy.
Well, I mean, it makes sense in this day and age. If you have a bad team like they did last year, the easiest way and the quickest way to overhaul that is transfer portal.
Yep.
You saw it with TCU. You're probably going to see it with a little bit of Colorado this year. I mean,
a little. It's like the entire team.
If they the crazy part is if they have a 4-win season, it is 4 times better than last year.
Yeah, it's a massive upgrade.
So you're seeing that now, and that's going to be the quickest way to overhaul a team.
No doubt about it.
So, I mean, you got to overhaul it, Cal. You have to, otherwise Wilcox is going to get fired. So,
yep,
transfer portal it is.
All right. Key returning and departing players on offense. You've got your top receiver and your third receiver coming back. That's Jeremiah Hunter and Mavin Anderson. Jeremiah Hunter averaged 16.1 yards per catch. That's pretty impressive. And 5 touchdowns last year. Not looking too much at the touchdown numbers because, again, this offense was pretty anemic, but 16.1 yards per catch is nothing to sneeze at. And then Mavin Anderson, he's a third leading receiver last year, 10.1 yards per catch. He should be a contributor again moving into this season.
Wasn't their top receiver J. Michael Sturdivant last year?
So depends what stat you're looking at. Touchdowns, yes. Yards, no.
Okay, gotcha.
Jeremiah Hunter had more yards. Sturdivant had more touchdowns. So those two come back. They're returning lots of O-linemen and some rotational guys from the offense, but that unit was not very good. So nothing to like highlight from them other than there is some continuity on the O-line. And they are also returning Jay Knott, but that rushing attack was so bad that I don't know that it's even worth mentioning. And they have like 18 transfers coming in
because Jay Knott is
at running back.
Good.
He is, and he may be better in this new up-tempo, fast-paced offense. So I don't want to – Jay Knott is good, and he's projected to still be the starter over Byron Cardwell. I don't know if you're going to talk about him. Obviously, the Oregon transfer.
Of course I'm going to talk about him, Jamie.
Jay Knott is a key piece. He just wasn't good last year, but I think that was more a product of the O-line and the scheme than anything. On the defensive side of the ball, they are returning inside linebacker Jackson Sermon. He was their leading tackler by a mile. So on a mid to low end of the pack defense, they are retaining their leading tackler. And if you're retaining your inside linebacker, that's a pretty key position. So some continuity there. They're also retaining their best safety and arguably best player in the secondary, Craig Woodson. Second most picks on the team with 2, so nothing crazy there. He was their third leading tackler, which says a lot because he's a safety. And if you have guys in the secondary as leading tacklers, we've talked about this in the past, it's generally a bad
day.
Sign for your defense.
It's a bad day for your linebackers is what that means.
Yeah. And they are also retaining 2 of their key contributing outside linebackers in Xavier Carlton and Miles Jernigan. So the defense has some continuity coming back. They also have some incoming talent that should be good, which Eli will talk about here in a minute. But some more good pieces staying at Cal than we had at Stanford, put it that way.
Yeah, totally. Are you going to leave? We have leaving next.
Yeah.
Week. Okay.
Departing players, obviously, they're losing their quarterback, Jack Plummer.
Literally every other scholarship quarterback they had.
Yeah, the only 2 players in the quarterback room that were on the team were walk-ons.
Oof.
So not good. Jack Plummer transferred to Louisville. Don't think that they're sad about that, though, especially you're going to get into this, but the guys that they got in are going to be better than him, in my opinion. So when you lose your quarterback, it's worth talking about. In this case, I think it's a positive thing. And then J. Michael Sturdivant, we talked about this with USC. That is a massive, massive loss in the wide receiver room. So that's a bummer for Cal, losing him, because he is a top talent wide receiver. On the defensive side of the ball, the only one they're losing of note is Daniel Scott, safety. He graduated, went to the NFL. So nothing you could have done about that. Other than that, nothing, no major losses on the defense. I'll put it that way. Yeah, that's that. You want to get into
we'll talk
what
about how
they're getting,
how they're trying to bring it all together here. So the recruiting class here, 46 overall, 8th in the pack. I was going through these guys. I was looking at some film, and really, there's not a whole lot in this class that's going to contribute this year. Cal didn't lose enough for these freshmen to contribute, I don't think. Not like the Stanford where they just lost fucking everyone. They had pretty solid. They had decent enough returners who maybe didn't start, or they're returning their starters, that I didn't really see a whole lot of guys who are going to come in and contribute. There's one guy, Niziah Hunter, wide receiver, 6'2", 192 pounds. I think he's really the only freshman coming in who really could contribute. I don't think he might be a rotational wide receiver guy. Come in a 4-stack, something like that. He's got all the physical gifts you could want in a wide receiver. Like, he's got really good hands. He's very strong. He's really good at catching through contact. And still holding on and even getting some yards out of it. And he does have top end speed. So he's really got a lot of gifts there. But he is a very lazy route runner. Watching his routes he's basically jogging, and that's putting it nicely.
I think you see that a lot in high profile high school wide receiver recruits that have good top end speed, like you're saying, and good hands. They don't have to run good routes but I think he'll figure it out pretty quick. Yeah,
probably. It's like one of those things where you're kind of like, man, you're trying to get into like D1, like you got to try to bust out some routes. They were like, I say like some people's like route running is like, man, like I said that earlier, like their route running's okay. His route running was bad because it was just lazy. I mean, he's jogging, he's not cutting hard. He's he rounds off everything like really bad. And then he also telegraphs exactly what he's doing. I could have told you like from before the snap what he's doing. I mean, he's leaning essentially backwards when they're about to do a little screenplay, like on the outside. Like it's that kind of stuff. It's all coachable, right? So I don't have a whole lot of problems with him outside of that. So that's all coachable stuff. So I think he's going to be a good player. So I see him maybe contributing, but he's got to knock those bad habits because they are not going to fly at D1. They are not. So I really think where Cal excelled this year in the recruiting cycle was in the transfer portal. They got a lot of really good players out of the transfer portal, and a lot of places that they really needed good players, right? They got Sam Jackson out of TCU, and Sam Jackson has only played in blowouts, but I like him a lot. Watching his play out of that, he did a lot of running, and he adds a lot of athleticism that Plummer didn't have. And considering their kind of milquetoast offensive line that they had last year, and like it's still not going to be great. Like considering all that, like you're going to need a quarterback who can run, and a couple of the places I looked at, they described Jackson as a wide receiver who sometimes plays quarterback. Kind of the Lamar Jackson thing, like he can run, so they don't think he's a good quarterback. He's got a cannon. He was running to his left. I saw a stat or thing at TCU. He's running to his left, and he outside body throws a dart 40 yards, and so it's like he's got the arm. So I wouldn't worry. I think he is a in the limited view of what we've seen of Sam Jackson, I think he is a massive step up from Jake Plummer. Moving down, we got Byron Cardwell. Us Duck fans are very familiar with Byron Cardwell. And I really like how he complements this offense. And I really like how he complements Ott in particular. He is kind of the stronger, more aggressive running back. So like if you Ott's very shifty. It's very shifty, very scat back. Byron Cardwell is very much not that. He's very much run you over kind of stuff. So I would expect to see them kind of split with Cardwell getting early downs and kind of short yardage situations. And I think they'll be a good pairing together. Pending the offensive line. And then you got a couple tight ends coming in. We don't know anything about them. One's from Oregon State, one's from somewhere, I can't remember. And they have 2 catches between them total. So we don't really know much about them, but kind of is what it is. You can't say that's an upgrade. It's gonna be a downgrade there.
Yep.
Then you got Taj Davis transferring in from Washington. He sucks. Just a terrible player. He should just quit playing. Moving on to Matthew Wyckoff. He was
anybody who chooses to go to Washington is just the worst.
He's a terrible player, and he should just quit football. Matthew Wyckoff is an offensive lineman coming out of, I believe, A&M, Texas A&M. And this is a massive, massive, massive upgrade for them on their offensive line. This guy started 12 games last year at A&M. He's a good player. He was a preseason all Pac-12, or not all Pac-12. He was a preseason All-American at one point. Like, he's a good player. Does it fix the rest of the line? No. But it's a good step. Like, it's a massive step up. So they have one guard who is very, very good.
It's good.
That's good for them.
It's a start.
It's good for them. That is an improvement.
Yep.
That is an improvement. On the defensive side of the ball, you got David Reese. He's an inside linebacker, and I forgot to write down where they all transferred from. So, but he's another big upgrade here. He's a solid downhill run stopper. In Florida. That's right. David Reese, and his highlights from Florida are pretty fun to watch. But he's a strong run stopper, and for a team that struggled against the run last year, big upgrade. Big upgrade. Another inside linebacker, you got Sergio Allen, who is also very from Clemson. Yep. He lacks a little bit of size, but he's quick on a read, and he's got a quick first step. He's a very instinctive player. I think he'll pair really well with kind of the simpler defensive scheme that Justin Wilcox runs for inside linebackers. So I think if they can just let him go out and play, he's going to have a hell of a season. At strong safety, you got Patrick McMorris, who was from UNLV. Am I right? Off the top of my head?
Pause.
Off the top of my head?
San Diego State.
Damn it. San Diego State. He's another solid upgrade. Really disciplined player. A lot of experience. He lacks a little bit of speed, but again, he's very aware, very disciplined player. So I think it's a solid upgrade there. He's very experienced as well, which is lacking on this defense in some regard. And so, yeah, I think that's an upgrade there. You got Noel Williams, who I don't remember where he's transferring from. This is the UNLV.
UNLV.
Guy. This is the UNLV guy. As soon as I said it, I think this is a slight upgrade. He's got a lot of experience. His tape is not super easy to find. I was watching some of the UNLV games where he played. But, you know, they don't really focus on the cornerbacks, so it's really hard to tell and, like, see where they are and what they're doing. And but from what I've heard and what I've read, he's improved a lot since joining the Cal squad, and he's earned the starter position. So, you know, he seems pretty solid from what I've seen in the very limited film that I was able to get of him. He seems fine, and he's got the starter at the cornerback position, so good on him. And then finally, you got Matthew Littlejohn. I think he's a JUCO transfer from like Citrus
College.
Yep. All right. He's a great man coverage player. Like you look at this guy. This is a guy who was probably a D1 talent, but didn't have the grades to go D1. So he goes to Citrus College, gets him up because this guy he was batting those Citrus College kids around, like the Citrus League or wherever the hell that place is. He was batting those kids around. He doesn't really do like aggressive jamming and man-to-man coverage. He does do press, and he's really good at press, but he doesn't jam, which is, I guess, fine if you can keep the coverage and speed. Because he is really fast. It'll be interesting to see how he transitions from such a low competition level, but apparently pretty well because he's got the starting job now. So.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much nailed that. Of the 22 starters between offense and defense, 9 of them are going to be transfers.
Yeah.
It's going to be, that's what they're going for. And if you're looking at we use our lads for projected starting lineups, and if you looked at Stanford's, for example, returning players show up in blue, new players show up in orange. Stanford's was all blue, and it was most of them had maybe 2 on the depth chart, maybe 1. Cal's is all 3 to 5 deep, and it is very orange. So they definitely had a strategy and stuck with it with this. Now, easier to do that with a returning head coach. So I'll give Stanford a bit of a pass here. They did not have a lot of time to work with. Yeah. And then with Stanford being Stanford, it's hard to deal with that.
Totally. But yeah, so that's what we got on the transfers.
Cool. So this lineup, while it was absolutely decimated and wasn't very good last year, the guys they're bringing in are legit players.
Really solid players.
They're solid players. So again, like at first when we were doing this, I was like, this is going to be the worst team in the pack. They were terrible last year. They somehow lost to Colorado. Like there's no way this team's going to be any good. Between the new offensive scheme, totally overhauling the lineup with transfers. I'm not going to say this team's going to be good by any stretch, but they have a hope of being decent.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I was kind of in the same boat. I thought they were going to be worse this year than they were last year. But looking at their transfer recruiting, I love that we're doing this because it just makes me I can't wait for football. But
I can't wait till we're right on all of this. It's going to be so great.
Until we're going to be very wrong on a lot of these things.
Oh, we're going to, dude, so wrong.
But like okay, I don't know if I told you this, but like there's a couple of college football influencers that I follow, and they're all very high on Arizona. Like they're like, oh, they're going to be good this year. They're going to be competing for, well, maybe not competing for the Pac-12 title, but like they're going to be in the conversation. And I'm like, what? Are we missing something? Are we missing something here? Because I don't see. They're going to be fine.
I don't.
Anyways, regardless,
He did well.
I came into this thinking like, oh, Cal got worse, and they're just gonna be a bad team, and I think there's there's hope to be. What were they, 4-8 last year? I think there's hope to become bowl eligible.
3 They were 4-8.
4-8.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there is hope to become bowl eligible here, especially with how there are some really bad teams in this conference now this year. I think they are, of the not good teams, they are probably the best not good team.
On paper so far.
Obviously, this is all on paper.
Well, and this is before. So if you're looking at the top end teams, we're talking about USC, Oregon, Washington, Utah.
Yeah.
That's like the top third. If you're going into the next third, you're probably looking at Cal,
Oregon State.
Washington State. Oh, God.
Possibly.
I've started looking at Washington State. That one's going to be. Colorado's going to be sneaking in. They're going to be teetering on that bottom third, middle third.
Yeah.
And then the bottom third is going to be Stanford, Arizona State, Arizona, in my opinion, and UCLA, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all unfolds.
But we still have.
We're going to do a full schedule breakdown. So
full schedule breakdown. We're only halfway through the Pac-12. Cal, the defensive unit should be improved. The offensive unit should be improved. This should be an improved team after doing the analysis. That being said, there's a lot of new pieces. So those new pieces and the new offensive system need to gel quickly in order for this to go well for Cal. If we're looking at ceiling floor type conversation, they're not going to get past 8 wins. We're not talking about this being a Pac-12 contender.
Yeah.
But being solidly bowl eligible, Holiday Bowl type season, I could see that. Bottom, nothing gels well. Everything goes to shit. The offense doesn't click, and we're talking about another 4-8 season for Cal. Yeah. That's kind of what we're looking at here. But they've grown on me. That's kind of the gist.
Yeah, no, totally. I am pleasantly surprised with their roster makeup coming into the season.
Unfortunately, their season doesn't start super easy. You got North Texas, which is good, and then week 2 they have Auburn, which anytime you're trying to break in a new offense and you have to play against an SEC team, it's going to be tough. But then they get Idaho before going to Washington to start Pac-12 play. So, home of Mark Schlereth, the Idaho Vandals.
They play inside.
All right, that was Stanford and Cal.
We did it.
I think that should be the end of the fully depressing episodes.
Yeah, no, I think from here on out everything's going to be
fairly up and up.
Fairly up and up for sure.
I don't know about Washington State. That's the one that I'm that team.
I'm very intrigued.
We'll get there.
I haven't gotten to it yet, so I'm very intrigued.
We'll get there. I've seen a few things. I'm like, but we'll get there. If we're looking at our schedule here, we're probably going to take next week off since this was on a Sunday, which, again, I apologize for. Life just kind of got in the way. We're going to try to avoid Sundays. It's just not a good day for people to pay. So we're gonna try for these midweek Wednesday, Thursday type episodes because those seem to do better. So look out for that. Probably be the week of the 24th, so 26th, 27th, and that will be Colorado and Utah. If we're just looking at this, I can tell you right now, we're probably not even going to tell you about Colorado's previous season because the entire episode is going to be trying to figure out what the fuck this team even looks like. So that's coming up. Utah obviously is a key contender. And then we'll probably go back-to-back weeks. We'll do Washington and Washington State the first week of August. And then I have to take a week off because I'm going on vacation. Then we got 2 weeks till football season. So we got to get Oregon in there. And then we'll do a full Pac-12 recap preview episode. And it's going to be
I just looked up the Our Lads projected roster. It's just all orange. I fucking love it. It's so sick.
Like I said, it's not even worth talking about last year's call. Everybody knows what Colorado was last year.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about it. It was bad.
It's like
there's
God, what's it called? The ship of Theseus. It's like theory where it's like if it's the ship of Theseus and every board and every piece of it has been replaced over the course of its lifetime, is it still the same ship?
Yep. 2, 3. Yep. Colorado has 4 returning players as starters. The good news is I like at least 2 of them from last year's team.
That is good.
So
that is good.
Just a little sneak preview there, but this team's not going to look anything remotely like what it was.
They have Travis Hunter at wide receiver
and corner.
Interesting.
That's what he did at Jackson State. I just don't know if you can pull that off at the. We'll talk about that. We'll get to that. So that's what's coming up. We'll get through the rest of these in the next 4 or 5 weeks before we get you a full college football preview, and then it is college football season.
Yes,
it is right around the corner, my guy.
I'm so excited.
Basically, we're like 6 weeks out. It's right there. It's coming.
Shoot it into my veins.
Is coming. All right, I'm pretty sure I did the buzzer beater last time.
I got one on deck.
So, listener and viewer, if any of you are left, doesn't look like it. Don't blame you. It's Sunday night late. Thank you for tuning in. We love you guys. I hope you are all as excited for college football as we are, because I cannot wait. It's going to be incredible. Cameron, I don't know how long you produced for us tonight, but thank you. And thank you for our beautiful skin for our live stream. If you're not tuning into our live stream and you're tuning into our podcast, thank you for listening. If you want to join, follow us on our social media. We'll tell you when we're doing these live videos, and you can come interact with us because we really like that.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun having.
It is a lot of fun.
Get to talk to you guys live.
Zeta June, thank you for letting us use your music as our outro. And I think that's all the thank yous that I have to do for the episode. So until next time, with the Utah and Colorado preview in 2 weeks, Eli, please take us away.
My buzzer beater this week is, if you go to UW, just quit football because you suck.
Dubs down, bitches.
Deuces.